Okay, this is Wayne of Firewater Forge in Cave Creek, Arizona. I've gotten a lot of requests for more information on the snorkel systems I put in my Cfmoto zforce 800. And I know the videos I made before were a little too brief, so I'm going to hopefully give you a little bit better idea of how the system I put together works. We're also going to compare it to a aftermarket snorkel system on my father's 800. He owns a standard size one, mine's the trail model. I inherited his after he passed a month ago. So I'll give you a comparison of those two and give you an idea how much they cost as well. Okay, I apologize for any wind noise today. It's kind of a breezy winter day in Arizona, and there's a storm on the way for tomorrow. So anyway, the one on the right is the trail model. That's mine. And the one on the left is the standard version. They're both the same year, and basically it's the same vehicle except for the fact that mine has no flares for the fenders, and the wheels are set closer together. If you note the angle of the shocks, you can see that especially so. Now if you look at the back of my father's, you will see is a twin stack design. The model, or excuse me, the stacks that come with it, there are four. One's an air intake, one's a CVT intake, and one's a dummy, and the other one I don't know where it's supposed to go. My father installed all four. He ended up taking one of them out and the dummy, and just left the two, one for the CVT and one for the air intake for the vehicle. So you may recognize these stacks. I don't know. The kit cost over 300 bucks. I think it was like 350, and that was with just some of the basic parts. He still had to cough up a lot of the tubing and such. Now for the CVT, which is this one, you can see down here that tube, the down tube, the elbow, and into the CVT here. All standard plumbing parts, all ABS plastic. ABS plastic being very heat resistant, which is really good in this kind of environment. Okay, the engine air intake comes down, and if I were to take off the, let me go to a different setting, the air cleaner and all, you would see it come into the top of the box. Okay. He also modified his vehicle too. That's another thing about these. He took out the standard seat belts and put in the harness system. The plastic bags over the column because of the rain coming. He also put in a windshield, of course, different mirrors. And again, you could see how wide the stance is on this one. And his was a trim grade, a little bit better than mine in that he's got chrome bumpers on it. And he put on the Nerf bars, these guys. He had a lot of fun with it, I know. As a matter of fact, I enjoyed driving it so much, that's why he bought me my own. And of course, this being mine, and much narrower stance. Again, no fender flares. I put a windshield in it myself. And I kind of repurposed an old bed frame for a cargo rack, which I'm probably going to take off eventually. I also put the little headlight right there. There's one in the back facing backwards. Some of the trails here are such that you need a little bit of more illumination just to let someone know you're coming so you don't have a header. Normally with these vehicles, the air intake for the engine is behind this grill here. I took that off, and on the inside I hot glue gunned some black plastic from a trash bag because an unbelievable amount of hot air comes blasting through there, and where I live in Arizona, that's not a desirable thing. I also put a boot on the emergency brake for the same reason. When it's 105 out and you're dying to go riding, it's pretty murderous when you got that kind of hot air coming in. Okay, so this snorkel here is for the engine air intake. It comes down and it goes through right there where the old intake was. And you can see on the video where it'll come around and go into the air cleaner box here. I haven't had any problems with it at all. You can see where I hose clamped it and how I did it. And because of the angle of the intake, air will come right over the windshield gap here, along the ceiling here and down in. And the air coming in is really super clean that way. Any of the dust that gets sucked into the cab pretty much stays pretty much at your head level here. The other one, of course, being the CVT. I angled it down like that and down here because the original one is behind the seat, right below the seat, and that thing was just choked up with dust. Let me come around here. Unfortunately, you can't see it because of the window and this dust abatement here, but the whole thing has been absolutely rock solid and has not shaken apart. And the original ducting for the CVT is this. So you'll see in the video, of course, where I took that tube and mated it up to that, and have had zero problems with it whatsoever. With my father's, however, this ducting stuff here several times has fallen off. Fortunately, it's just a CVT, so it's not that big a deal. The idea of having those tubes anyway is just so you don't have to worry about the CVT ingressing water, debris, crap like that. And it runs cooler. The dust here is horrendous. They test vehicles out in this environment because it's one of the harshest ones they can do it in, and that's where I go riding. So I figured I don't want to be changing out belts all the time and wear and tear on the continually variable transmission components. So most of the parts for that CVT intake are the originals. But I found that the hose clamps clamped around the roll cage have been very good. At one point, I actually put an air cleaner on the CVT intake. I took it off because it did clean the air to some extent, but there was so little dust up there, it was negligible. And it actually was somewhat a source of resistance to the air getting inducted. In which case, you know, less cooling air. So I just took it off. The only problem I could say I've had with this is when I go to give this thing a bath, I'll jam a rag down inside those to keep water out. One time I forgot the one on the engine side, and the engine would idle, but it of course wouldn't accelerate. Once I figured it out, I stuck a piece of wire down there, hooked it, pulled it out, and everything's fine. Other than that, everything on this vehicle is pretty much original, including the tires. I've had a blast with it. I've gone places that I never thought I would. One of the advantages to the trail model, of course, is the narrow stance. I've had that thing in places where that one couldn't go, just by virtue of the fact that it's about 10 inches narrower. It has made a difference in box canyons that I've actually got this thing threaded into and out of. And that's not to say that this is not a good vehicle. I like this one too. However, I'm probably going to be selling it because, after all, I don't need two of these things. It is a nice machine. I like Cfmoto. They seem to be a well-made product. And I like the fact that some of the options on it they were standard, like the winch, that sort of thing. The roofs came, you know, other manufacturers, those things are extras. And let me tell you, I have used my winch several times. The last time I went out, I got down into this canyon. The dirt was too loose from a bunch of storms, and I actually had to pay out about 60 feet of flat strap and the rest of the winch cable, almost 100 feet total, I think, and actually had to pull this thing on a 45-degree angle out of the canyon. Thank goodness I had it, or else that thing would be down there right now, probably being a home to a bunch of pack rats. So anyway, if you have any questions, please feel free to give me an email. You can reach me at kf7rcm@yahoo.com or firewaterforgeaz@yahoo.com. And thanks for watching.